My neighborhood has always been what you would describe as cliché. White picket fences, fathers happily barbecuing, the works. Not to say that it wasn't nice. It was certainly a lovely neighborhood, and the peace was well worth the humdrum day that it would provide. Of course, it never lasts. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here telling you all this. It all started about 3 weeks ago. We started to get break-ins in the neighborhood, never anything too serious, though. It was just food from pantries and the occasional box of Goodwill clothing that had been thoughtlessly left outside. Of course, even if it was only food or clothes that were stolen, it was still incredibly unnerving to know that someone was prowling inside of your home while you might have even still been inside of it. So the old rules of the neighborhood watch were dusted off, and everyone was vigilant for the next few weeks. Or until they stopped caring again, at least. I gotta say, people in this neighborhood relax way too easy. I suppose a little background on myself is important here. I'm a university student, living at home with my mother and father, along with my sister. Dad's in banking and mom delivers mail, so it's a pretty standard life. We got a pretty nice home that we moved into about 6 years ago. For a price you could definitely call tough but fair. Kitted out with a pool, 2 in-suites, a gaming room, the works. We all lived upstairs when we were younger because, well, kids generally don't like living on a different floor than their parents. But as we got older, Mom and Dad shifted me downstairs so that they could have a bit more room for themselves. Now this is gonna get complicated, but bear with me because it's kind of important. The layout of my room is what you would consider at best unusual. A lot of Australian homes, it's not uncommon to have the main entrance on the second floor, which then lead down to your ground floor, so therefore my room can be entered through 2 different ways. You can come downstairs, straight into the bulk of my room, or you can take the outside door that goes through the laundry, down a hallway, and then into my room. I don't have any doors to actually close my room, in fact. That made hooking up pretty difficult in my teen life. 3 days ago, I woke up in this room to hear someone walking around. It's not really uncommon, as you would think it is. It's an old house, it does creak. But it took me a few minutes to realize why this bothered me so much. The steps were someone walking around on my floor. That doesn't happen. My mother and father usually used to do it. Back in the first days of me living down here, but I'm a light sleeper, and whenever they came down to throw some clothes in the washing machine, I'd always wake up, like, every single time, right? I almost wet myself. I've never been the brave at the best of times. I just sat there pretending to sleep, hoping that he or she would just take whatever and leave. I then heard this click of my door closing with no more footsteps. I waited several minutes before I even dared to move, before sprinting upstairs and waking up my mom and dad in a blind panic. We didn't sleep that night. We were too busy searching the house, for God's sake. He didn't take anything. Not a single thing. Mom and Dad let me stay home for the next few days after that, albeit once we'd replaced the locks and deadbolts and looked at some high-level security systems. I was still convinced he'd stolen something, though. I mean, it was just way too unusual that, based on what had been happening in the neighborhood, that he'd chosen to take nothing here. So I did some investigating. I spent a few hours essentially itemizing my own belongings, the food in the pantry. I'd even considered testing for prints at one stage when I noticed something. The laundry has several doors for storage. You know, stuff like brooms and other stuff. And one of them was sitting slightly ajar. I swung it open, a kitchen knife at the ready, only to be slightly embarrassed. Then I noticed something. At the bottom, hidden just out of view by this weird bucket, there was a panel. It was in the wall here, just one you'd have standardly for accessing the inner area of the wall. Of course. I was still on edge, so I thought I had no other choice but to investigate. I opened it up. and shined a torch inside, only to see a massive cavity, one that extended all the way out to the wall of the bedroom. But that's not the part that bothers me. You miss these kinds of things when you move into the house. What bothers me is the food wrappers and rags of clothing I found in there. What bothers me is the pictures on the walls of the neighborhood children. What bothers me is the constant thought I've had every single day since then. There's only one reason to break into someone's house and not steal a single thing. And that reason is that you weren't breaking in at all. You were heading out for the night.